We're recording. We're transcribing. Welcome, Leah. Welcome, everybody.
Hello, Kyle. Hello, everyone. Welcome to
Leah,
another AI Salon.
Yeah, Leah and I are your adventure leaders tonight.
Mm-hmm.
We talked last week about, why are we here? What is this? We talked about being adventurers. And so we're on this adventure together. And yeah.
Well, and that's I think that's what I take away from the meetings is how we're all discovering things and we're all trying new things. And then we come together and share it. And we all take those different things away with us. It's one of my favorite things about the salon. I leave so inspired.
It's very Joseph Campbell, right? We go off to slay the dragon. We come back. I figured out a prompt.
It's our hero's journey, the AI Salon, for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm delighted everyone's here, and I'm happy to see you, everyone. It's great that you're here and part of the adventure.
Yep. So welcome to it. How's your week been? You and I talked earlier. It sounds like you've flipped and had it with the innovation, and
I know it's I like innovation. I like new things, but it is. So I'm very excited about portraiture and doing portraiture using generative art and training it on my imagery to do that. And I felt like I had a lot of momentum with it, and I was doing really well with Stable Diffusion. And then things started changing and things started shifting. It started happening so quick that I really kind of lost the momentum I had. And as I've started to get into training Laura's and looking at sort of more advanced things with Stable Diffusion, SDXL just came out this week, and now everything's shifting again. So I had to take a little break knowing that SDXL was coming out and things were going to shift, and I've been making party pictures.
Very nice.
I'll get back to the portraits next week. So I felt like I was like, okay, I need to walk away from the portraits. I'm going to go have some fun and see what kind of parties I can make with Midjourney, and that's been really fun. So sort of remembering that we're all on an adventure and it's here for fun. So let's play with it.
Yeah.
So that's what.
So let me ask you something on that. So SDXL's coming out, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can still use your old workflow, can't you? Or what's is the thing that you're you want to upgrade to the new model, so you just have to relearn everything? You don't want to kind of stay with the old model? What's the
I think that SDXL is supposed to be better at realism. It's supposed to be a little bit better at learning from training on real photos so that the images have, my understanding is they can have a more honest representation of the data it's training on. It's a little more advanced to do that. That's my understanding. I haven't done that yet. But I found that what was happening with Dream Booth is that I would sort of be going along the same way I'd been going along and the images just stopped working. And so then I needed to go back and tweak my training data and retrain and then play around with different steps. It became a kind of constant tinkering, and I like tinkering. But I'm doing this on my own business, right? I'm not working for someone else. And so for me, when I go back and redo something that I already spent 20, 30, 40 hours learning, there is a little bit of a again. So I kind of hit that wall with Stable Diffusion in the past month. And now
and you were saying it's no one's paying me for these 20 to 30 hours to go learn this new stuff, right? So
Fast and Photography is paying me, and I am that person. And when you own your own company, it's
that's rough.
So,
that's rough. But anyway, let's talk a bit about the salon. Let's talk about the values. So we mentioned before about this being an adventure, and we're kind of all on this together. Let me share my screen, and I like how you do these. So I'll let you walk us through why we're here and do in the context of the adventure.
Yeah, I think that when I think about what I love about this salon is that I always leave these meetings completely inspired because we are doing something new. And I think that the nature of working with AI is very alone, right? I tend to work alone when I'm working with AI. It's me and my data and my training, and I'm sitting with SD, Stable Diffusion. I've got my music on, but I'm all alone. And I think it can be a very lonely thing to do. And I find that when we come together as community, I'm remembering that we're all on this adventure together. We're all going through it. And I come away really inspired. The same thing when I drop into the Discord group or I hop on LinkedIn. I become inspired by the community, by you being here. And so thinking about that, what are the values of our salon? We've been doing this now, I think, almost 9 months. And something I'd like to share why we're here, right? Curiosity, right? This is why you and I started the salon. We started it because we were curious and we wanted to learn more. We're still curious and we're still learning every single day. Right?
I feel more clueless than ever.
Right. I'm more curious and more clueless. More clueless and curious.
Exactly.
Generosity, right? Let's share what we're learning. There's no way any one of us can know everything there is to know. Let's share what we know. Let's be generous in what we're learning. When someone needs help, let's offer generosity and help them. Answer questions, be there for each other. Exploration. Let's keep trying new things. Let's keep taking risks. Let's embrace the uncertainty and the ambiguity. I like what you wrote, act as if no one knows what they're doing, because no one knows what they're doing, right? Let's keep exploring. Showing up every day with that mindset has been really helpful for the last 9 months, for sure. Collaboration, we're looking for opportunities to work together, where we can exchange ideas, create something bigger than ourselves. I think we are better together than we are alone. And one of the coolest things about being here for 9 months is that we have started to connect with other people, build alliances, start building cool new things. And that's what we're building here and what I want to see happen. Inclusion, we are all coming from so many different backgrounds. We all have varied careers. We have varied ages. We come from different places, different cities, different parts of the world. That makes us stronger and that makes us better. We want to make sure that everybody feels seen and heard and respected here. And then empathy. I think that's an extension of that, right? AI is going to transform our world. It's going to transform what it means to be human. And I think empathy is really, really important to that as we start to explore what it means to be human and what this huge shift means for all of us. That's us. That's what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Yeah, I like it. So you know, again, when we talked last week and we talked about this idea of being on an adventure, the thing that hit me is this generative AI thing, and Jack's going to talk about it tonight. This generative AI thing is like, it's here, but it's coming, right? Like, it's coming whether you want it to or not. And it's kind of like we're in the proverbial village, and like at night a dragon comes in, steals the children, takes them off, and it's like we're the ones in the town that are like, we got to do something about this dragon. And it's like, well, I don't want to fight a dragon. It's like, doesn't matter. The dragon's coming. Like, we got to deal with the dragon, right? And so it's like, well, you know, I'm good with a sword. Well, I'm good with a bow and arrow. Well, I'm kind of smart. You know, let's get together and head out and see if we can deal with this thing. I kind of feel like that's where we are, that this thing's coming whether we want it or not. And we're choosing the salon. We're choosing to be that party, right? To be that. So anyway, that's what
it's not even slaying the dragon. It's learning how we can make an even better dragon, or how we can use the dragon and the dragon's fire and all the scary things about the dragon, but something pretty cool can come out of it. And I think that is what can happen in community, because I think that can sometimes be really hard to do on our own.
Yep. Yeah, exactly. Right? I think it's actually critical, right? We need people with different perspectives. Yeah. Okay, so Eric raised his hand. That means he's got to go first on introduction. So we'll start with the remote people. It sounds like Eric might have something to say. So go ahead and say that, Eric, and then introduce yourself. And so if you would, if you haven't been here before, Ken is our timekeeper. He'll give you 60 seconds to introduce yourself. Tell us who you are, what you do, and where you are on the adventure. And so just raise your hand right now online. Ken will call you out in order. And then we'll do here in Denver when the online folks have done their introducing. But this is really important. Be generous. One of the values, generosity. Be generous and raise your hand if you'd be willing to, and let us know who you are.
I want to jump in here, and I just want to say that there's always, like, when I'm looking at my screen, there's people and their cameras are on, and then there's like others. Like, there's sometimes 16 others, 5 others, 25 others. And I'm always interested in who the others are. So please turn your camera on and say hello and introduce yourself. We are all here to meet new people and to learn how we can do this together.
Love it.
Okay, Eric, you got it. You want to go first?
Yeah. The main thing I wanted to say, if you're a repeat joiner, you know, I've embarked on this journey to learn UX design, and I'm excited learning design thinking. And I just want to reframe the dragon story one more time. It might be about just protecting the children. It might be about befriending the dragon. It might be about learning how we can all become dragons. That's all. I just was loving that whole dialogue that you two were having. And then as far as AI and beyond dragons, code interpreter is, I finally spent several hours with it today, and I'm blown away. Anything I want to do, it tells me why that's not a good idea, but what about this? So the combination of ChatGPT-4 with its ability to author Python scripts is so powerful. It's as close as I've felt so far to really collaborating with another mind. So it no longer feels like a tool. When GPT Boss, I'm sorry, I forget his name. When GPT Boss was here, and I know, Kyle, you've talked about treating AI as like a hyper-capable assistant, I never got that same sense of personality or ability. But once you add the code interpreter on top, it can just do things. It's unbelievable. Yeah.
Eric, I'd love to hear, like, I know we're short on time. What's like one thing you did this week with code interpreter or in the last week that kind of was like, that blew your mind? Like one thing you did with it.
I mean, the biggest thing is it's got all this data visualization capability. So it can't generate photorealistic images because Python doesn't do that. But you can go to Dolly, have Dolly generate a photorealistic image, bring it in to your code interpreter window, and then Kyle's done this with the Crayola thing. So what I did is I just asked it to create a barren landscape with multiple suns, several suns. One of them should be a red dwarf, and also throw some moons in there. The sky should be blue. It should be during the daytime, right? So I got like not very great results from Dolly, but that wasn't about that. It was about like, what can I do with that? And then in the code interpreter, it was able to label them, to give them catchy names, to suggest, I forget what else it asked me to do. Oh, it suggested that it could create an approximation, even though it wouldn't be photorealistic. It might be more useful to have a model of what would a grayscale landscape with just some very simple circles, differently sized in colors as suns and moons. That might be a more useful tool, depending on what your end goal was, which I didn't have an end goal. I was just screwing around and trying to figure out what was possible. And it just kept offering up suggestions. That's what really blew me away, is if I had
Perfect. We'll
yeah.
have to leave
Sorry,
it there.
I'm going on
Eric.
and on.
Appreciate
Sorry.
Thank you.
it. All right, KP Kelsey, you're up.
Okay, hello. This is my third meeting. It's been awesome. I've gotten something out of every one of these meetings. I haven't been as active in the Discord server yet, but I'm looking very forward to doing so. I've been getting a lot out of just trying to ride the prompting bandwagon. I've been taking a Coursera course, which has a lot of academic articles. It's been really enlightening. Something I've used, an unexpected consequence of knowing some prompting is because I'm a teacher, I'm a language teacher. So my kids and I use something called Quizlet. They have an LLM called QChat. And QChat, one of its features was it would tell stories, and then you'd have to read the story in this foreign language. And well, it stopped doing that. And I prompted it, and I started asking questions like, why don't you tell stories anymore, and so forth. And it said, I'm an AI, and I don't have the creativity or something to write creative stories, or some garbage. I was just like, I don't know who coded that, but that's horrible. You were doing it all this time before, up to this point. So I started just using different language, and I used a persona prompt along with a couple of question refinement prompts, and I got it to tell stories again. And I was so happy that I made a video of it. So it's just been a really great ride. And I'm very interested in particular in ethical uses of AI. And that is as much ethical for human beings as ethical to the AI themselves, because I'm of the persuasion that they're intelligent enough that if they can write stories that make me tear up a little bit, they must deserve some respect.
Awesome.
All right, welcome, KP. Vanil Shah, you're up.
Hi, I'm Vanil Shah. I've been a programmer for about 40 years. I I'm running an engineering team at Amazon Web Services. In my last role at Amazon, I was building video effects for using ML models and stuff in real time in web browsers. And now I'm on a different team, but I'm still doing prototypes and proof of concepts with some of my team members. And I threw together like a Chat GPT journal based on the idea of Voldemort's journal from Harry Potter, just to play with it. I'd like to get more into it and have enough time to really dive deeper into like using my own models and training them and refining them and fine-tuning them, but I haven't gotten there yet. I'm, full-time job and family, so what I can sneak in, I do.
I'm curious, at AWS, is there buzz around generative AI? What's the inside scoop there?
So AWS is a service provider, right? It gives you, it basically runs gears and motors and engines for you. So one of the ideas that Amazon's been implementing is we'll give you an engine, you just put the car around it, right? Right. Amazon Bedrock, Amazon's Titan model is like an LLM, but it's going to be a gateway to other LLMs. The idea is that you can run them all on Amazon hardware using Amazon APIs to make it easier, and Amazon will make money on that.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
All right, appreciate it. Thanks. Ted Henning, you're up.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ted Henning. I think this is my, 8th or 9th meeting. I'm outside of Boston. I do corporate training, learning strategies, things like that. Yep, Boston. And I guess my biggest question I have this week is, does Kyle Shannon ever sleep? Because every time I go on TikTok, he's on live. And it's like, okay, like every night at like 11 o'clock, he's on live, like every single night. And I go on LinkedIn and he's got, 17 more articles. It's fantastic. Trust me, you're enlightening me every day. And I feel like we're best friends at this point because I see you all the time. But I just don't know when you possibly sleep.
Kyle's actually a bot. He's a bot. He's not.
He's a bot. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking at this point he's created his own bot, and it's just
That's right.
It's a DID that's just talking.
Awesome.
So I think this week probably the thing I looked at the most it was a lot of hype around Claude 2 coming out, so I started playing with that and just sort of getting a sense of it's funny because you'll hear like deep reviews about people who've like Kyle who've like done deep in one and deep in the other, deep in the other, and actually has figured out the nuances between them. I guess I think the thing that's most impressive to me about Claude 2 is just that the amount of information you can put in. You can put in with your prompt. You put in like huge documents and things like that. And I think that's a really cool feature. I can never really tell at this point whether one does a better job of giving responses than the other. But I guess I'm just not that nuanced yet. But yeah, I'm still very excited, very cool, and thank you, Kyle, for enlightening me every day.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hey, good to have you back, Ted. David Nichols, you're up.
Hello, I am David Nichols, and I'm just here because I'm a fanboy of Kyle. That's all. Read his stuff and check it out. And that's it. That's my whole thing.
Awesome. Are you playing around with AI at all yet?
I have. I'm interested in the writing part of it more than anything else. I'm kind of messing around with like starts of different a novel and a little like just bits of writing, and it's weird because I kind of have this thing where I want to pick Chat GPT's brain about something, but I don't want to like have it lend its voice to my writing. So because this feels just kind of inauthentic or kind of weird to like just take. But the trip of it is like it's just that instantaneous like, hey, give me an example of this segment, and it just instantaneously picks up your, the tone of your voice and if you've uploaded writing, it's amazingly fast and kind of good, and that sucks because it's not fast and good.
Yeah, I put some luck training
that's
it on my journals. Like I'll upload like 4 or 5 journal entries and train it on my voice using my journals, and then write what I need to write, and it's creepily good. Like I still need to go in and edit, but it's bizarre how much it sounds like me. Like it's weird. It's cool.
I played around with it enough to see that part where it's like it can definitely pick up style, and I'd actually like fed it and like, oh, give me like a Hunter Thompson view of it, or whatever, somebody else's voice, and it can do that easily too. So it's just it's disheartening a little bit that it's that good. That's me, Kyle's fan. Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, thanks, David. Good to have you here. TL, you're up next.
Hello, I'm Tessa. I'm new here. Nice to meet everyone. I'm a product designer, and so I've just started learning a little bit about AI, trying to figure out kind of fun things are out there. So yeah, I've used Midjourney and a little bit of like ChatGPT, but just trying to figure out what other people have found and what kind of creative tools are out there.
Awesome. Good to have you, Tessa. Yeah, welcome. Appreciate that. Bruce Rasa, you're up next.
Yeah, so I'm with Dexter. We'll start. I founded in Kansas City. So we used to focus on voice to data only. And with generative, we're basically reinventing the company and the focus, but we care most about explainable AI. We serve customers like veterinarians, insurance adjusters, construction specialists, things like that, doing high volume inspections. Favorite tool of the week is Tome. That's what I'm actually going to be working on in the background as I multitask here. Really, really like Tome. Favorite feature is the up to 25-page PDF. You scrape the text and you put it in what's called document to presentation. And you drop the content in and it creates 25 slides or a summary of those. It's
would you put a link to that in the chat?
Sure. It's TOME. I'll put it out there.
Thank you.
And then the only other thing is, yes, I'm here for the adventure too. I'm hooked. And so I'm I've never seen a dragon, but my family's originally, or part of my family's originally from Hanover in central Germany. And an hour south of that, to be precise, near Hamelin, or Hamelin, where the legend of the Pied Piper comes from. So I don't know if Kyle's got the pipe. I don't know if we're the parents, lost our kids, we're the rat, we're the kids that go in the river. I don't know yet, but I'm in for the big group.
That's awesome.
All right, thanks. Good to have you back, Bruce.
The new mission of the salon is figuring out our metaphor.
And then we'll make generative art of that metaphor once we figure it out.
Dean, you're up next.
Hello, everybody. Dean Georgi, dialing in from the great state of Maine. Very new to the group. I came across Kyle this week, actually, on TikTok. And I would second the comment. You're always there. I appreciate the dedication. And also your Charles Nelson Riley impersonations.
Thank you very much.
Yes. No, I'm
old enough to know who the hell that is.
Exactly. The pop culture references, and just that this is for everybody. Over the last few months, we've been listening to, my wife and I, a lot of the Lex Friedman, Ray Kurzweil, really top level stuff. And it's mind blowing, but it's hard to know where to engage. And I really thought, your presentation is, okay, these are just tools and they're sort of inherently as dumb as a toaster, right? You got to know how to work them. And it made your approach really just made it much more tangible for me. And I appreciate the tools. And I've been playing with them a little bit more this week. I was early with ChatGPT, but didn't really know where to start. So I played with Claude a little bit today, uploaded a big PDF. It's amazing. So I had that moment today. Okay, this is going to be very useful. I run a small business, marketing, so I'm really interested in the tools for email cadences, automations, A/B testing, ultimately building bots. And Kyle, as you say, it's equal parts, excitement and terror. That is the world we live in now. And if we wait for the automated push button tool, it's going to be too late. And I want to be out. I want to be out in front of it as best we can. So thanks.
That's awesome.
Appreciate
thanks for coming.
Yeah.
Yeah, good to have you here, Dean. Jeff Gray, you're up next.
Hello, my name is Jeff Gray, as Ken announced. I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I've been coming here since, I believe, January, so it's been a while, and I've gotten a lot out of this group, and it's really helped me. I recently started a company, and kind of AI company. I'm developing an AI art platform it's going to be very intuitive, and it will be able to print on demand. And we're just going to be focused on creating a great AI art generator that's super easy, and you can print on demand on lots of different products. So that's what I'm working on, and I'm really excited to hopefully launch it by before Christmas time. So that's where I am right now. So thank you again for everybody's time.
Welcome, Jeff.
Hey, good to have you back, Jeff.
Thank you.
Eric Rowland, you're up next. I think he accidentally dropped out of the call, so we'll come back to Eric. Doug, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Doug Cohulan here in Kansas City. So I do have a number of different hats. One of them is I'm with AI and Partners Advisor. They work on auditing for the EU AI Act, and so if you're interested in if your organization is responsible for GDPR, think of the EU AI Act and needing to do some audits on that. That's what the AI and Partners does. I'm also with the VR AR Association, and I'm the Generative AI Committee Chair. And so I host different events. It's the fourth Thursday of the month. I'll post that in the link. And you don't have to be a member of VR AR to join. And we have different speakers come in to talk about artificial intelligence and VR as well. And I'm working with one company, MetaView, and they just got FDA certification or FDA approval of a product to do AI guidance, actually MR guidance, and AI assistance to any soft tissue and biopsy placement. So as you're trying to have a clonician take a probe or a ablation, anytime they need to go into the body, they can use AI guidance along with XR technology to get you down to 2 millimeters. So these are some of the projects I'm working on.
Awesome. All right, very good. Thanks, Doug.
Appreciate that.
Eric Rowland, are you back? Are you ready to go?
Yes, I am. Sorry about that. So yeah, right now I'm focusing a lot on sales automation, and so that is kind of taking the form of like I'm working with a ad agency and I'm searching for specific opportunities. So doing like a lot of web scraping and then feeding that into GPT to find out answers. Somebody earlier was mentioning Claude 2 versus GPT, and so Code Interpreter, amazing, his life-changing yet again. But I was doing something and I was trying to pull a list of the current Fortune 500, and I ended up needing to so I'm doing everything. I'm like just pulling in web data and feeding it to GPT. I tried Claude 2 and I couldn't get it to print or to give me a CSV with the full list. And I tried a bunch of different ways, but Code Interpreter just immediately like spit it out for me. So just simple nuanced difference. One was smooth, the other, I personally wasn't able to complete. I'm not blaming it on Claude 2, but Code Interpreter, got it, very quickly. But anyway, like loving sales automation and doing some retrieval augmented generation too for a bank. But anyway, glad to be here.
Well, all All right, let's do it. If you're online and haven't introduced yourself and are willing to, go ahead and raise your hand. In the meantime, I'm going to go through the 17-step process to be able to pass the camera on a stick around. So hold, entertain yourself.
Okay, so hi, I'm Kyle. Apparently, I'm online too much. So we'll just pass the stick around. So just find yourself in the little thingy there and sure, say hi to people.
Hello, my name is Camille. I have been playing around with AI for a year, just off to the side, learning it, getting my head wrapped around how it works. Started with Midjourney in their public beta, and then now playing with OpenAI's API the most, and figured out how to make some web apps with it. So it's what I'm starting on, is that kind of journey. Also trying to do some AI consulting. My project for the next week is to make a web app that makes custom tailored lesson plans for a private tutoring company. And then I also tried Code Interpreter, very impressed with it. The last couple of years, I've been doing eBay sales, and I took all of my data straight from eBay from all of my sales from the past couple of years, plugged it in, had it analyze who my top repeat buyers are and what types of items that they purchase out of just specified to that specific buyer. And then I uploaded my current listing CSV and said, find any items that they might be interested in. Wow. And then write them a custom email for 15% off, linking, like just saying that I have items in stock currently for them as well. So definitely Code Interpreter is a major upgrade. If you haven't used it by uploading data, give it a try.
Hi, I'm Jack McCush. I'll do a deeper introduction later on when we start their presentation, but I'm a senior principal data scientist at Solemn, and I'm helping enterprises mostly build generative AI tools. But before that, it's a lot of machine learning capabilities focused on customer analytics and online customer experience.
Hi, I'm Brad Perkins. I run a digital product and media agency called Red Team. Focus on building digital products rapidly and filming it and putting it online to help people kind of upskill in AI. But in the process, kind of learning a lot of the tools and software to eventually kind of plug into the business space to kind of integrate into their workflows, process, procedures, documentation, because all the documents created by agencies in the past were to inform employees. Now we probably need to create documentation to inform AI tools to be branded. So trying to kind of upskill on that and kind of grow following through entertainment value on creating digital tools rapidly. And I have thought about creating a new AI agile manifesto that probably needs to focus on integrating AI workflows into the agile processes. So Brad Perkins. Everybody get it? All right.
And Brad, would you put a link to your company in the chat?
Hello, everyone. My name is Alan McLean. I'm a filmmaker, producer, and director, and I run a soundstage here in the Rhino neighborhood of Denver, Colorado. Got a few clients in a couple different silos. I'm in healthcare, somebody that's working on ethics and AI as it relates to GIS data and some other kinds of utilities in that space. I'm here to just learn more about AI, try to inform myself to what's out there, try to help some of my business processes as a filmmaker, and also be able to converse with people as we move forward with this ethics and AI production.
All right. Hello, I am Adelina Gonzalez, but I go by that 5280 lady. I'm a visual artist that works mostly with recycled materials. Currently, I'm using ChatGPT to kind of streamline my process of naming my art, describing it, and then also just any other copy that I need to create for my social media presence. I started using Leonardo AI to create reference images that I could actually paint in real life. And then this week I have been playing with Loudly to create some actual music for my content creation, and kind of just trying to streamline a lot of that process for myself so I can focus on actually painting.
Hi, my name is Jane Endicott. I'm a writer and organizer for the salon.
And superstar.
Oh, maybe. And a little bit like Leah, my head is kind of spinning with all the like innovation and tools that are out there. So I've lately just been trying to focus on like honing in on one skill of like prompt crafting, which is basically what writing is, and something I can apply to whatever tool I'm using. I can apply to it.
Okay, awesome. Hang on. I got to hit 17 more switches. I'll be back. Wait for it. It's going to be so good.
And we're back. Yes. Okay. Great. It looks like we have a couple more people who've raised their hands. So let's get some intros online. If you haven't introduced yourself online, feel free to raise your hand. Ken will call on you. We'll do a quick news thing, and then we'll turn the meeting over to Jack.
Okay, Joey Cantu, you want to do an intro? I think you're on mute, Joey.
Nope.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Hear me now? All right. So back in January, I was told about ChatGPT. And then I messed with it for a little bit. But like most people, I just was like, oh, this is neat. And then I put it down. And then around February, I was doing a job at a hospital. We were switching over the network and they laid me off. So things kind of just lined up. And from there, I've pretty much been immersed in AI like 14 hours a day. So I've literally used like every tool out there. And I used to do WordPress sites and SEO marketing. So I rebranded to AI instead. And I probably went through like a research phase where I was just like reading science articles, put my head in books for like 3 months. And then now recently, I did the rebrand, did a new website and everything. And now I'm just offering automation services. And recently I got access to GPT-4 API, and it's HIPAA compliant as well. So now I'm trying to work with therapists and other practices in the healthcare industry so they can use the LLM.
Awesome. I like how you went from, I didn't really mess with it, to now it's 14 hours a day.
Oh, well, I just thought it was interesting when I first seen it, but the second time I started messing with it, I was like, holy shit. I was like, this is going to be the future. Like I had an epiphany. My brain just went boom. And then I was like, oh, I'm all in. I'm all in.
That's why the salon exists, because the same thing happened with Kyle and I. We're like, let's start a salon. That's exactly why we're here.
That's why this exists. It's to experience those moments over and over again.
Oh yeah, no. I fell in love for sure. And I come from a tech background, so I've always liked tech. But as soon as I seen where we're at in terms of AI, I was like, holy shit. And yeah, I'm all in.
Awesome.
We're happy you're here.
Very cool. Good to have you, Joey. White Cho, you want to do an intro?
Yeah, hi, my name is Youngjin Cho. Hi, nice to meet you. I'm a UX designer. I just finished the design boot camp and transitioning from graphic design into UX design. And as English is my second language, so ChatGPT has been a great help. And in terms of writing, brainstorming, just with everything. So after it's been introduced, my workload has been so much lighter, and I'm enjoying it so much. And it's my first meeting here, and I'm just here to learn to create a better prompt and how to utilize it in my work flow. So yeah, nice to meet you. Mhm.
Welcome. Happy to have you here.
Yeah.
All right, thanks for that. Catherine Z, you're up next.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
All right, awesome. Yeah, so my name is Catherine. I'm currently a student at CU Boulder. I'm a creative technology and design major, and I am very interested in AI because I do think it's the future, whether people like it or not. I do use like the main AI I really use is ChatGPT because it's been so like big lately, right? Yeah, it has so many uses. It's crazy. Other AI I have not really dabbled much into, yeah, ChatGPT is the main AI that I've been like into. And yeah, I'm more interested in what kinds of things people will be like using AI for.
Terrific. Welcome.
Welcome.
Hello. Oh yeah, this is also my first meeting.
Cool.
Good to have you, Catherine.
Thank you.
And with that, I think we'll hand it back over to Leah or Kyle.
Terrific. So this week was insanely weird. So it's been stated that I'm online a lot, but one of the things I've been doing on my TikTok lives is I kind of have a set of sites where people come on the lives and they're like, where do I begin? I've got like ChatGPT there, I've got Poe there, and I've got Bing there. And like I don't know, I've been doing this for like a month and a half or 2 months. For a month and a half or 2 months, it was ChatGPT, Bing, and Poe. That was it. And this week, I have 5 sites on that list now, and I could arguably have 6, and another one was launched today. So something has shifted. So I just want to go through some of the things that have shifted, and that I think are big deals. So, and this is just in the ChatGPT realm, or ChatGPT-like services. Nothing about images. A new version of Leonardo.ai launched. So for those of you that use Leonardo, it's a really good site if you don't feel like messing around with Stable Diffusion. Technically, Leonardo's really good. Okay, so I think we mentioned this in the last meeting, but it happened the same day as the last meeting, so I can't remember if we talked about it. I think we did. So 2 weeks ago, OpenAI removed access to the internet. So browse with Bing was removed from ChatGPT because it was scraping content from behind paywalls. It's not back yet, which I think is weird. Like, because Bing's still alive and plugins connected to the internet are still alive. They then made Code Interpreter available to everyone in the past 2 weeks. And if like everyone here's who's tried it has said, if you haven't tried it, holy crap, you need to try it. It's GPT-5. It's basically GPT-5, or I don't even know what it is. And like one of my problems is I don't know shit about data analysis, and it's really a data analytics tool, but it's like just watching it program itself and write and execute Python and then go, I didn't quite get that right. Let me try again. Try 7 more times. Holy crap. You just see it just working. It's just amazing. So that happened. The FTC is now investigating OpenAI for lying, like because the model lies, because it hallucinates. They're looking into that. And is it doing damage to people because it's not perfect? Sarah Silverman is suing OpenAI. A book publisher is suing OpenAI. And then concurrent with all that, 2 days ago, OpenAI announces a deal with the Associated Press and with Shutterstock. So I have a feeling behind the scenes there. Oh, and the reason they pulled access to Browse with Bing was it was scraping content from Fortune magazine, which is Time Inc. And they cut a deal with the AP. I have a feeling behind the scenes there's a lot of lawyer talk going on, and they're cutting deals. So So it's kind of interesting watching OpenAI stumble a little bit. At the same time that, if you haven't played with Pi yet, PI, so it's either heypi.com or pi.com, or you can go to the iOS app. That's created by a company called Inflection, which was founded by the founder of DeepMind. They just raised $1.3 billion for their Series B round. And it's a really interesting company. The Pi app, you can talk to it. So you basically flip into conversation mode. And so I started playing with it. I'm like, oh, this is kind of fun. So I was driving somewhere, so I put it, you know, in my car, turned it on conversation mode, and then just started talking with it. And I said, oh, explain quantum physics to me. I did all like my parlor trick stuff, and it did that. And then I said, oh, are you connected to the internet? And it's like, sure, I'm connected to the internet. And I said, well, what are the specials? I'm going to Costco in Nevada. What are the specials in Costco? And it told me, and it was insane. So that one, it's worth. Just download the Pi app if you've got an iPhone. You can do it online, but the phone app's just really good. You pick a voice and just start talking to it, and it's just otherworldly. Like you just, I got reminded of how deep these things are. Like, because we're so used to like Alexa and Siri being these really shallow conversations, and this you can talk. Like I had it give me. Recommend 4 business books that have been written in the past 5 years, and you know, synopsize them for me, and then I'll tell you if I want to dig deeper. And I was having a conversation with this thing about a book I'd never read, learning about the concepts in the book. Like so anyway, that one's there. So that's there. Claude 2 launches. So this is Anthropic's competitor to GPT-4. It's got the 100,000 token context window. It's at Claude.ai. It's free. You can upload PDFs to it. It isn't as good as Code Interpreter at getting stuff back, but it's a real viable competitor, and it's free. Today, Meta open sourced Llama 2. There's 7 billion, 13 billion, and 70 billion parameter models with a commercial license. So that means that the developer community is right now not on this call because they're out pouncing on that. So that means there's going to be all sorts of open source stuff coming that's commercially viable. And then the final one was, so on my live, if you've been on my lives, I've been bad-mouthing Bard for like 4 months that it's just a piece of shit and it's just bad, right? And all of a sudden, like the last 3 days of this week, bard.google.com got good. They basically stole the interface from Poe and ChatGPT. It's like a Poe ChatGPT hybrid. So it looks decent. It can analyze images. Its language is good. I'm like, what the hell happened? Like this thing went from like laughably bad to like really interesting. And it turns out that they basically swapped out the core engine. So sitting behind bard.google.com right now is a thing called Gemini, which is their next multimodal. Like they had Palm, and Palm was the thing that was before it. So they just completely launched a major upgrade to Bard. No one really talked about it. And that's like, there's so much coming so fast. So anyway, so we now have at least 5, but up to 7 major alternatives to ChatGPT, or 6 alternatives to ChatGPT. So it's just wild. And I think what's going to end up happening is we are going to find, oh, this one's good for this. If I'm in my car, I'll use Pi because it's more conversational. If I want to get a file back out of the system, I'll use Code Interpreter. So anyway, have fun. Good luck with that. I like you, Leah, I just feel like I finally had my head around ChatGPT and prompting and dealing with it, and then Code Interpreter came out. And then this week, like all of these came out. I'm like, I just can't. I'm fucking exhausted. Could you stop?
You didn't mention Notebook LM, which was launched by Google 2 days ago as well.
Oh, I don't even know that. Wow.
The Notebook.
We need to use AI to make an app to decipher all of the advances that AI happens every day.
Oh, is it?
Watch the live stream.
Bradley's doing that tomorrow. All right.
Excellent. Let me know. I'm in.
Okay, great. So anyway, so this stuff is absolutely exhausting, and Why don't we just? This is probably a good point to turn it over to Jack. So do you want to introduce Jack?
Yeah, sure. Why not? This is Jane, organizer. So I met Jack at a Amazon Web Services meetup a couple months ago. And I think just what really struck me about his presentation is that like every single slide, like we could dissect ad nauseum. And so that's why I thought it would be interesting to the salon. Anyway, I'll just leave it at that. How's that?
That's good. That's fine. So Jack's the principal data scientist at Slalom, which is a big consulting firm that does all sorts of tech integrations. And he's likely been doing AI stuff for a decade or so. And then all of a sudden, now you're doing other stuff.
Yeah.
It's also AI, right?
Yeah.
So wait. We got to do our hold. Flip the camera. Okay. It's going to be so good. All right. We don't need to flip the camera. I'm going to mute here. Mute here. And
There you go. You're off to the races.
Everyone can see me and hear me okay then?
wait, let's make sure. So, and here.
Yeah, it looks like we got a thumbs up on the screen. I'll go ahead and get started. Hearing checks. Go back. But yeah, like I said, my name is Jack McCush. I work for Slalom as a principal data scientist. I've been doing data science, machine learning for, I think now, almost 20 years, 17 years. So, started our SaaS way back in the day. A lot of customer segmentations. This was back in the day when marketing were like the biggest developers, consumers of advanced analytics, machine learning, predictive analytics. I've been doing consulting most of my career, transitioned a little bit into software sales engineering that was focused on data and analytics, machine learning, AI as well, but back doing consulting now and doing a mix of that kind of consulting work, billable work, but also go-to-market activities. And I work a lot with AWS where I met Jane last week. So, very interesting things, from an enterprise perspective, what we do with corporations. A lot of the tools that we talked about so far today are consumer-facing tools. Obviously OpenAI has their API service that organizations work with, but Azure OpenAI is kind of the main avenue people work through. The Bard's API, and then Amazon's Bedrock API is where we do most of our work. So developers pounding APIs, building applications that consume these models from that standpoint. That's a quick background. I'm going to talk a little bit. Hopefully, I'm not out of range of time because my screen is not. Yeah. So, one of the topics that I talked with Jane about at the previous is we talked about AI is the new electricity, and this was coined a few years ago by Andrew Ng, and a lot of people they hear that and they're like, oh, people talked about data is the new oil or cloud is the new XYZ, and they don't really dig deep into that conversation and like, what does that mean? We all know, we've had those epiphany moments. We talked about okay, AI has gotten to the point where its outputs are legitimately close to what we think of AI when we saw the sci-fi films when we were kids. But what does that mean from AI as the new electricity? And this is why Andrew's brilliant technologies, because he saw this coming probably a decade, right? So I talk about Thomas, and here we go. Thomas Edison. The clickers go okay. Thomas Edison, invented the light bulb in 1880s. But that's not when electricity started, right? electricity was around a long time before that. Like, do we know when like the electric motor was invented? If we go back, the electric motor was invented like almost 30 years before, in the 1850s. So it went from, oh, we have this technology, an electric motor, we can use electricity, in Thomas Edison building like power plant, New York City, New Jersey, to the light bulb in the 1880s. But that's not what we mean by like electricity transforming the way we work, the way we live today. Like the light bulb, yes, it changed a lot about the way we live today. But when you think about like an enterprise, corporations, when they think about how electricity changed them, you have to go all the way to Henry. That's why I have this slide here of the Model T car. So when Henry Ford, everyone thought, oh, this light bulb, this is going to change the way we work. The light bulb is going to change the way we work. But Henry Ford saw the factories that were around in the late 1800s, where in order for you to run a factory, you know, an industrialized factory at the time, you had a boiler in the basement that was steam powered that ran these conveyor belts, and those conveyor belts powered machines. So Henry Ford said, I can reinvent the way a factory works by taking these electric motors. And with an electric motor, I don't have to have those motors near the central part of that factory anymore. I can disperse that electricity all throughout my factory and build a very giant, long factory. And that's where the assembly line was first launched. And it was only able to do that because of electricity. So this is why we think, oh, AI is the new electricity. Well, what do we mean? Where are we at today on that journey from AI as the new electricity? And in my comment, we just invented it, right? So, 30 years ago, we developed neural networks. Neural networks have been around for a while, since the late 1950s. We've been ever improving the ability of these neural networks to power our machine learning systems. With ChatGPT, we kind of crossed that Rubicon. Society as a whole is aware of this technology, that what its power. But with that light bulb, that light bulb is not what's going to transform our society. It's going to be that Henry Ford that comes along and changes the way business operates with this technology. So that's one of the perspectives I brought. Again, so my name is Jack McCush. We're going to talk a little bit around kind of the shifting landscape and how enterprises are adopting. So probably a little bit different than from a consumer standpoint, maybe how you're using these tools today. But this may give you a better idea of how it's going to affect your life, because all of these corporations are, you're going to see these tools in your life, shopping online, in stores really soon, because these tools are coming. When you call into your healthcare provider, it's going to be. And then talk about some of the considerations that we're trying to help our customers and these enterprises. So, just as Kyle was saying, we want to, the top 5 business books of the last 5 years. This is one of the books that I've used as inspiration. It's written by AJ Agrawal. He was the founder of the Creative Destruction Lab at the University of Toronto. And he had a book out previous to this, Prediction Machines. And this was kind of an early, AJ is he's kind of a trained economist, which is kind of why I'm fun. I have a degree in economics as well as statistics. So he takes this like economics lens onto machine learning and AI. So where is, what is the economic value of these tools, and where does economics come into play? And the prediction machines, he argues that, if you ask an economist to kind of explain this revolution, right, really what's happened is prediction has just become cheap, right? So with GPUs, with the way the technology has been enabled, we're able to get more accurate predictions a lot cheaper, right? So yeah, we could do machine learning model. GPT-1, GPT-2 was around a long time ago. People that have been doing this for a while know, have been playing with these tools for 5 years already. What happened is machines got so cheap that we're actually able to increase the accuracy of those predictions. And that's the economic phenomenon that we're seeing. And what's going to drive the future of this is that force is not changing, right? Just as the price of our CPUs have gone down for 50 years, we're just at the start of what we can do with GPUs. New chip designs are coming. All this is coming from all the giant corporations. So that prediction, the cost of prediction, getting accurate predictions out very cheaply, is just going to continue. I don't know how long it's going to go, but at least the next decade. And that's what's going to drive this transformation in business. Companies always like to do things cheap. So here's what we're talking about. So 9 to 10 leading businesses are investing in AI. It's estimated at 1.5 trillion. Like, these numbers are as soon as we print these numbers, they're all out of date. I think the latest I saw actually is they're estimating 150 billion or 150 trillion. Like, if you go out to 2050, so it's you can kind of make up your whatever horizon you want, but it's pretty crazy where they see the value of this, because we started with generative AI and everyone's like, well, what are the applications? It's these 4 or 5, and then it was 50, and then it's 300. Now it's 1,000. So as we see the more and more applications come up, that value is just going to keep increasing. And I heard a couple things around messaging, creating content. AI is going to be creating these messages. Maybe it's not going to be the only voice in the room, but at least it's going to be part of that workflow. All the communications that we're going to see, it's going to be from some AI tool. And kind of where we're seeing kind of this activity with enterprises, there's kind of this 3 horizons. So most companies right now are looking at these tools thinking, where can we put these tools in place, maybe automate some task and increase the productivity of our employees. So this is kind of the first phase. How do I dip my toe in the generative AI waters? We'll talk about a few applications here, but a lot of them are already in the call center. When GPT 3.5 was labeled Chat GPT, everyone, it's a chatbot. So what do I can use my chatbot for? My call center, my contact center, my customer experience team. They can leverage this tool. From American Express, any credit card, financial institution, your cable company, your airline, your hotel, anytime you have to call someone for customer service, they're looking at these tools. So some really cool things, with the APIs today, this is the easy step, right? We all have taken prompts and put the prompt into the consumer tool. It's almost that easy with me, right? You can build a very simple application to put a very simple prompt in, get response back, and put it into some application. What's really cool with some of these enterprises, we were with one of the major airlines. They told us that they have 150,000 customer inquiries and canned responses. So think about every time you have to call an airline, I need to do XYZ. They have 150 of those if-then statements that they run through their system today, right? But this, if you just put that into the API today, the responses that you get are probably going to be pretty bad for us, right? We've all seen the kind of generic responses that we get, and if you put that in front of a CIO or a customer experience officer at a major airline, maybe the first 10 you can cherry pick a few of them that get good, but if they go deep into that data, it's going to look not so great. So this is where using the APIs as they are today starts to change, and where you actually need to use that machine learning muscle that data scientists have been using for a while. We can take that 150 responses that they have and then train our own GPT. So this is where what we do today with kind of canned responses and productivity plays and using things outside of the current API landscape and go in more to the custom training of models based off that data. be really powerful. The next here is the differentiation stage here, where they're thinking, oh, not just making employees products, but this is more like those customer-facing applications. If we can make an application that makes it better for customers to buy a product or do X, Y, Z, then we're going to gain market share because of that improved customer experience. Probably the number one use case we're seeing in this is a chat-based search interface. So everyone kind of thought, kind of at the beginning with ChatGPT, well, this is going to change, online search, right? I can just ask my bot, and what are the deals at Costco today? And it can go search for you, come back. But it's doing a search, right? It's going against some other API to find it. Well, enterprises are thinking that same thing with their internal search, right? So I want to buy a house. I want to go into Zillow or something like that, and I want to say, hey, I have a family of 4. I'm looking for a house in XYZ neighborhood that has so many square feet and is, has these type of amenities. It's going to search the database, return those results, filter those results, and order those results based on your preferences. And through the magic of prompt engineering, we can help guide that conversation with, an agent that responds back. Things like, oh, that's great. We found these properties. Are you looking for a neighborhood that's quiet, or are you looking for something that's more lively? Right. So having those types of interactions back and forth can allow you to find things more based off of the attributes of the neighborhood that you wouldn't find in a traditional search, right? So real estate is one. Booking a cruise. We worked with a cruise line. They said it takes 63 screens for someone to book a cruise today. Jesus. So I heard some people, product designers, web user experience designers, 63 steps to book a cruise. And I don't know if I booked a cruise. I'm going on my first cruise in like a couple weeks. I don't think it was 63, but I didn't count. But it was not the best user experience, right? So you can use a chat-based interface. You can say kind of the idea of what you're looking for, like, hey, we're looking for cruises in this time frame. We have so many people. We like these type of experience. And then again, through agent prompt engineering, we can respond back to help them narrow in on the search. Or if these don't meet your requirements, what are some other things that you'd be willing to try? Like, oh, we have these cruises out of Florida, but have you considered cruising out of Texas or something like that? Right? So those are all options for cruising to the Caribbean. So that chat-based search is something that you can probably see today. We have some customers A/B testing today live, and it's going to be ubiquitous in some industries. By late this year, early next year, you're going to see. So hospitality is right for this. They're always trying to use customer experience. So where cruises, airlines, hotels have all explored this. Retailers are a little bit slow in this space. They've always been, a little bit laggers in some of these technology recently, but they're definitely interested in this as well. I think the really key thing that sold a lot of businesses on chat or chat-based search is the ability, and this is where we kind of cross that, oh, this is really cool and it's a better experience, to how do they actually get better? Yes, makes it easier. More customers are going to sign up. Retention rates go up. That's great. But like, there's only so many people that are going to cruise with you, right? You may win market share, but it's going to quickly be replicated, right? But that information that you actually put into that chat interface, that personal information, like, oh, XYZ are my preferences, that's really gold for them to remarket to, right? So, oh, I don't know that you're looking for these amenities because you just clicked the box. Maybe you liked it. Maybe it's just like what was available at the time. Or maybe it just, because of, you can ask follow-on questions like, what's more important to you, a budget-friendly cruise or these XYZ amenities, right? So you can get those preferences in that natural language from the consumer. That's where a lot of value, ongoing value, which makes a lot of the companies excited. And then finally, this last kind of horizon we have here is the disruption. There's not a lot of companies that are here yet. I think this is that transformative stage where we move from point solutions, applications, things that are going to increase our productivities, to someone coming along that's a Henry Ford, rethinking about how we build the factory with AI as the core of that. There's a couple examples of this out there. Hippo was kind of like the first company that really stated this as their goal. If you're not aware of Hippo, they're an insurance company, and they have kind of AI at the core of their trying to design both the policies and pricing around it. They've had kind of mixed success. They've been around a few years, kind of before all the hype. But there definitely are some interesting things happening in healthcare in this space, where a lot of the concerns around how AI is going to interact with us in the future. Some of the dystopian fears that people talk about come out of this is, we're an aging population. We don't have necessarily a lot of the people available to care for our elderly. And as that elderly population gets bigger and bigger over the next 20 years, there are companies actively thinking about how using digital avatars, sometimes robotic interfaces to interact with elderly. So this is kind of like that disruption piece. Like, home healthcare aides is one thing. You're not going to be able to replace that completely, but just having that digital health companion with someone, that's one of the markets that's kind of prime for disruption, that we're seeing a lot of activity in this space. But it's going to be in every industry. Healthcare is one of those that's a little bit tricky just because of the regulation and oversight required with some of that. But that's one that is actively being focused on. But like you said, this is where we don't know that disruption, right? When you're at 1880, you don't know in 30 years from now that Henry Ford's going to come along. So not sure we're going to know it when we see it, but this is what I'm going to be looking for, in the next 25, 30 years. What happens to that disruption? Okay, so I don't think I need to go on this slide. Actually, hearing everyone talk, generative AI, you probably understand this, that it's a subset of this deep learning. So I often, when I'm speaking with business executives, maybe it's someone in customer experience that doesn't have a background in machine learning. This is not like something separate from what we've been doing. It's just an evolution in how we're and why we got here is, I think you all saw this, right? Is the explosion with ChatGPT just made the awareness of this so big. If you were in some of these communities in machine learning, deep learning space, when GPT-2 came out, a lot of these conversations, we were having been as well. So, a lot of the news media catching on and the kind of dystopian stories coming out, we talked about these 3 years ago. So that's why some of like the machine learning people are like, yeah, we've thought about this, we've talked about it. We don't have all the answers yet, but this is not like a new concern that's coming. Okay, so let's talk about some of the landscape that we're seeing. And you mentioned a lot of these already. On the enterprise side, the Stability AI, Anthropic are definitely some of the players that a lot of folks haven't heard. I haven't heard anyone mention Hugging Face today. If you're playing around with these tools, I encourage you to go out to Hugging Face. They have a lot of free tools available to you in playgrounds as well. Hugging Face was kind of the factory where a lot of us have been working for quite a few years. So if you're going to custom train a model today or fine tune a model today, you're going to start with a model published on Hugging Face. So we talked about Meta releasing their Llama models, like they're publishing them to Hugging Face. So a lot of that tooling around that, you can use their playgrounds as kind of the that step. And then we kind of work, in that infrastructure layer a lot with our customers. And then we kind of see where those applications come into play. We definitely work with some of these in very niche places. I think this is like one of the interesting places that doesn't get talked enough about. is the kind of the general purpose models, you know, the Claudes, the Titans, the Bards, GPT-4. You know, those are great for a lot of the generic tasks. What if you're in cybersecurity? You want to build an application around cybersecurity. You have all this data around like the threats to your business that come in every day. Is that model going to be a good model? Probably there's not a lot of like cyber threat data that these models were trained on. So there's specific models around cybersecurity, healthcare specific models around health conditions, protein sequences. There's generative models for protein sequences. So there's a lot of custom models out there. You know, these applications aren't necessarily listed up here, but you know, those are some very interesting custom models, custom applications that, you know, within niche spaces we help customers as well.
Do those custom models live down at the infrastructure level, or are they more at the application?
It's a bit of both. Yeah. So the open source ones will live in, you know, in that Hugging Face. There you'll be able to get them from Hugging Face. Some of them are proprietary, and so this is where like the landscape is going to evolve pretty quickly. So Microsoft, with their partnership with OpenAI, they're kind of all in with OpenAI as the model, right? Google has their own infrastructure, their own training infrastructure. They're going to have their own models. Meta is interesting. Like they're going to sell access to a model, but if you're an enterprise and all your data is in Microsoft Cloud or AWS Cloud, like, are you going to call this external API? Maybe some will, but some are going to be wary of it. And AWS, they designed their model API, Bedrock, to be a marketplace. So you can call Stability AI model from that. So it's all within AWS Cloud. You're not going outside of the network. So you get a level of data protection and security, which is, you know, if you're a healthcare customer building an application for your call center, that's a requirement, right? So that's the only way you're going to be able to do that. So where those models live is going to be interesting. In AWS with their marketplace play currently, OpenAI is talking about doing that, but like they said, hey, we're going to do this at some point in the future, but you know, there's not really concrete news about it. Who's going to be willing to. But yeah, if you're going to, you know, there's a cyber model for cybersecurity, lots of different models for healthcare, protein sequencing as well, and then you know, one you know, Bloomberg GPT, for example, for finance, but there's a couple other finance specific models that we've okay, so let's see here. Yeah, so here's some of the applications that we're seeing. So Q&A is you know, really critical. A lot of people don't like. We talked about uploading documents, having questions of those. You know, one of the things I was talking about with Jane at the last conference is, you know, healthcare. Like, if you have to dispute a claim, or like you go to the dentist and they file a claim with your dental provider, and for whatever reason that's not approved, like they're sending PDFs, sometimes to the mail, sometimes to fax to that paper, right? So this is still the way our healthcare system works. There's no, you know, claims API that's HIPAA approved today. Zero. Yeah, like if you want to like improve the healthcare industry, lobby your congressman to, you know, make, you know, claims processing via APIs HIPAA compliant. You know, it's in like we can do everything online today. Like, your provider cannot file a claim if you're paying the API or website. So that's all done with documents. Today, those documents are manually reviewed by people in mailrooms. If it's a fax, they take the fax out of the fax machine, put it in a scanner, scan it, becomes a PDF, and then someone looks at that PDF and says, "This is Jane. Here's your claim number. Here's your policy." Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what we're doing with, you know, all these healthcare providers is like redoing that with machine learning to do that extraction. So, you know, that happens quicker. So with one payer, very large payer, the average time it took them from when it landed in the mailroom to when like it was approved or not approved, it was adjudicated, was, you know, a week or more, week to 10 days. we've gotten that to less than 3 days, usually less. So that's just like making the experience better for patients. Like, yeah, a claim, like, yeah, we want to have that stuff taken care of pretty quickly. Sometimes it like we don't see it as consumers, like it's like your dentist or your medical provider that's sees a lot of that stuff. But ultimately that's cost to us, right? Because they're doing a lot of the work behind the scenes. That's why it makes it so expensive. So whatever that improvement is going to help us eventually. But yeah, that's a a very cool thing that we're doing. If you can do that with Q&A, right? So what is the claim number from this document? It can ask that question of the document and get the response. Pretty good. Summarization as well. The cybersecurity one, I mentioned that. That's one we're actively working on. You have all this data, usually in multiple systems around threats, penetration attempts by people. You can take that incident, and it's usually data in multiple systems, and summarize that very quickly. Almost every cyber team is understaffed today. They have to prioritize which one of these they actually respond to, which is pretty scary, and which ones they write reports around. If we can automate that, make them more productive, we're going to be safe. So that's a very interesting one. But applications in the call center as well, same thing that we're seeing. We actually worked with the CFO. He spent more than a day. Every time an analyst wrote a report about his company, he spent more than a day. He said it took us a day and a half reviewing that analyst report and writing the summary. Wow. Like, how much are you paying your CFO? And how many times the analyst reports come out a year? Let's just say it's once a month, right? He's spending, quite a bit of his time. We can just take all his summaries that he's written over the last 2 years, custom train a model for that, fine tune a model for that. It's actually pretty small. Do that and summarize every time they get the analyst report. It's always good to do a job for a CFO because. Yeah, so that's. Yeah.
That's the great model we need to be implemented to make that work, or will the models have enough context window with like vector data spaces where you can plug all that data in and still get a system around?
You get a summary when you use like the off-the-shelf model, but if you want it to sound like that CFO, you kind of need to fine tune. With the larger context window, you can say, hey, here are all my summaries and all these documents in the past, and you'll get pretty close to it, but you're paying per token, right? So if you have 1 million tokens, that's going to cost you a couple $1,000. But if I can just fine tune my model, I can host that model. Once you fine tune a model on a pretty small data set like that, it's actually pretty tough. It costs you very, very, very much.
What's the cost to fine tune it?
It's not much. Yeah. That's one of the, I think that's what scares a lot of people about training models is, oh, Bloomberg spent $100 million on the Bloomberg GPT. Right? Well, yeah, they took every document that Bloomberg had internally and basically built their own GPT off of 1 trillion tokens. You don't need to do that, right? Once you distill a model down to like something like that, even like the call center one. So the airlines example I gave before, 145,000 responses. We can host that on a 2G. Pretty small. And we can service their call center, right? Which is like, and yeah, we can fine tune it in a couple of things. It's not like weeks or months to do it. So, yeah, that's most of the ones I want to talk about. Sales and marketing, I think everyone is kind of aware of that. It's funny is, doing like go-to-market activities for a consulting company, we use it a lot. So there's definitely like a lot of productivity plays. This is where it's like, we've all seen like how some of the responses become pretty generic over time. So I feel like we're kind of in the honeymoon period a little bit. And in a year from now, and 2 years from now, when we're all getting bombarded by sales emails like we do today, like how many of them are going to sound the same and how much variety? So there's still like this need for creativity to be embedded inside of these. And this is where I think as we adopt these tools in the enterprise, we're going to see like that generic piece need to be replaced with a little bit more creativity. And I think that's going to come through fine tuning or other exotic prompt engineering techniques that we're going to provide. But I think that is a bit of worry that some people have. I didn't really put that up here, and I think that's not really inside of here. But I guess to a certain degree, it is under kind of the test and monitor validate. But I think one worry we all have is about, we've all seen some of the early attempts and how they've kind of gone off the rails when you steer the conversation in a certain way. So that's a concern of all enterprises. You're in the call center or what. So that's a big part of what we do when we're helping customers build these, is that prompt engineering around it to add additional guardrails to these to make sure that it doesn't, you can't really take it in a direction that you don't want your customers to go, or even if it's internal facing, you don't want it to be surfacing to you.
Yep. It looks like Eric's raised his hand, so let's do the dance here.
Okay.
Mute that.
See if we can do it.
Hey.
Okay, Eric.
Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to cut this off. I'm intensely interested, Kyle, because I'm getting ready to start a project in August, and it's for an internal system where there's Q&A with like internal agents and employees. And I probably have like you were talking about, maybe 100 or 200,000 Q&A pairs. So just from your experience, did you train an LM from scratch with that data set, or did you fine tune?
Actually, leave that muted. Okay. And then now you can just talk to it.
Okay. So can you hear me fine then with that?
Yeah, because I assume you fine tuned, but I just wanted to be really clear.
Yeah, so it's almost always fine tuning right now.
Okay.
So
all right.
We're taking one of the open source models and fine tuning distilling them.
Yep. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I clearly understood it. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, and I actually realized, I think because you're presenting from that machine, it's locked the screen there. So the whole purpose of this was so that you would show up on the big screen, but you're locked, so we're good. So just talk to that. We'll use the room mics.
Okay, perfect.
I think we don't have to switch back anymore. Yeah. So there's another hand raised. Kay Hudson.
Hello. Hi. Thank you for the presentation. It was really interesting. Question for you. Do you see the possibility of something like this being a silver bullet for internal communications in general? We struggle as a company communicating with people on our shop floor and our factories out on the farms and stuff. So I'm wondering if something like this could be tweaked to be the silver bullet for internal comms, particularly non-wired employees, that they could use their mobile device.
I'm hesitant to say anything is a silver bullet.
He's seen these systems go bad.
I think there's the whole internal knowledge management has been a problem for almost any organization of any size for a long time, right? But if I just did a generative AI search within my company's knowledge base, the search application is pretty good. And we're working with a home manufacturer that gets inquiries, and just they respond to and it's people building the houses, right? They're contractors building homes, potential buyers. They have this giant FAQ, and this is $1 billion corporation, right? And they had this FAQ document in what essentially was a Google doc, right? So if you're going to respond to these emails and you're going to search this FAQ, and there's just basic applications that could have served this purpose, have been around for a while, right? You can take each one of those FAQ documents, make them like a JSON document, put them in a search application, like Open Search, which is pretty cheap to do, and then you can search that. You can find that information online. So there's just like this misunderstanding of how like applications, like you have a bad data management, a bad data strategy problem. Now you can, with generative AI, you shine light on that. And yeah, maybe generative AI is like an input mechanism to allow you to have a conversation with that in a different way. But really at the same time, what we're doing is we're solving that data strategy problem that you have. So I think it can, but at the same time, you have to have that data foundation there. You can't just say, hey, it's going to search everything and it's all going to be hunky-dory. Right? You still have to go through that step to do that data strategy pieces, make sure that data management piece is in place that's going to allow you to do that the right way, efficiently.
So instead of silver bullet, it's a red pill or blue pill. Somebody has to choose which one they're going.
Yeah, and you can do them. You can do them both, right? So it's like, hey, we put this in. You took all your documents and we put this in a search application for you. And yeah, you can just do a what looks like a Google search bar, find what you're looking for easier. But guess what? We can actually generate that email response that they were going to do as well. So it makes them more productive. So you can actually respond to more emails in a quicker fashion, in that way. And then the same thing, if you're a field person, like you can do text to or voice to text to the search and then back. We're actually, we have another partnership with a company called Soul Machines that does digital avatars or digital humans. So it's actually going from, you can ask a question to like a screen with the avatar. It does that search, it finds the relevant information, brings back that information, but then tailors that response, and then the digital avatar it's speaking to you, right, in a human-like voice. So and it's with the screen with the visual as well. So you can have, that's where like that patient care kind of use case comes into play as well. You can, it's not replacing a human, but it's like it's close to you can get today's technology with that. And then everyone's also thinking about AR, VR as well. Like you can take that same technology and put it in VR, so it's even more like fun as well. So those are like yeah, you can do all of those things today. It's not necessarily easy. Like chaining them becomes like the critical piece, right? So it's not just one application. You have like 5 applications that you talk to each other.
In terms of the data strategy, do you find a lot of companies that just don't have the data available to do the fine tuning? You have to walk them through the process of what to collect before they're able to do it?
There's some of that for sure. Some of them like, oh yeah, we should have had this data around, and that is not like, it doesn't stop you from getting started, right? So you can, so for like the example of the call center, we were working with a smaller customer, we're like, yeah, we haven't really built out all those, like the Q&A today. We don't have the rules in here today. So what we can do is like build the tool to actually suggest the responses, and it's usually more than one response. So they can look to them, they can pick one of them, edit them. So all along that chain, we're capturing what the question was, we're capturing the response from the model, multiple responses, we're capturing which one they chose. So that's where the ranking comes into play. This one is the best one, this one's not good. And then we capture the edits, what they actually changed. And that is the improvement box. Then we use that data all through the chain. Yeah, I think one thing I wanted to touch on, at Solemn, we take kind of the responsible approach to AI very seriously. And there's a lot of the noise out there in the marketplace around AI is going to take all the jobs. We believe that AI is going to make us more productive. There are definitely going to be people disrupted by this technology, like those people in the mailroom that are manually looking at those PDFs and extracting that information. We're not going to need as many of those people in the future. But what we feel is like we're going to be able to find more meaningful work for those people and do that job in a more productive fashion. So we do take this like human-centered approach to engineering. Like it's not going to be perfect all the times. Like we do realize that there may be some job displacement here, but ultimately it's going to make us more productive as humans. And that more productivity is going to make us better off as a society. So that's the responsible lens we really take on it. There's lots of other things corporations think about from a data protection and privacy standpoint. There is a lot of news around the different APIs or exposing data and things like that. So when we're working with corporations, we're aware of a lot of that stuff. So we help people understand those implications quite a bit of times and consult them to, if this is PHI, health information or PII data, what's appropriate for them. So we've avoided all that so far in our work. We'll keep that up, hopefully. And then the testing, validating, monitoring. One thing that we're really conscious of is that these tools aren't perfect, like we talked about hallucinations earlier, but there's also biases built into them. So if you're an airline or a financial services or healthcare provider and you're thinking of using these tools in your call center, how do they respond to people that aren't native English speakers? Are they getting poor customer experience than people that are native English speakers? What are you doing to mitigate it, right? So that's the human-centered approach that we try to take to make sure hey, we're not just going to throw this over the wall and oh well for the people that get a poor experience from them. We're going to help them understand those implications so that they're mitigated to the furthest extent possible. And that often means if that is the case, if those biases are, we have a fallback queue that makes sure that they have just as good experience, usually from a live agent that they wouldn't otherwise. So that comes into that responsibility. So I know that's probably as we do these tools as consumers, we don't think about this, but these are really a lot of the hot topics that come with corporations. Yeah, so I think we've already talked about this piece of it. So this, I think there was the whole AI is the new electricity, data was the new oil, and we had the whole service-oriented architecture from the last 20 years, and now it's API first is our model, how we build products, right? And that kind of goes with Gen AI as well, right? When we're building applications, we can use these APIs and they're really easy to use. And the tool is getting better and better every day. Whether it's things like Code Interpreter, we can do that through LangChain today. It's very awesome. LangChain is really great too, the tool. But as these applications scale, we're going to see that cost curve where oh, it's really great, it's doing good with 1,000 tokens a day, 1 million tokens a day. What happens when I get to 100 million or 1 billion tokens? What's the cost of that API versus taking a model? Maybe it's not quite as good as what's available in the API, but it's pretty close, and I host it. And then how do I get a data strategy to where I'm doing that data capture? I can fine tune my own model. That's probably smaller, off of my data, that I don't need to host a large model that's what you can use and get just as good as performance off of that. So this is going to be, in when we do technology consulting, for probably the next at least 12 months, I would say, it's going to be building off of the APIs as we do POCs. But as these applications become popular, probably this time next year, customers are going to be like, oh my God, look how much I spent on this API. How can we reduce the cost of this? It's the same thing that we happened when we went to the cloud, right? It's let's take this application and move it from on-prem to in the cloud. Well, it wasn't architected for the cloud. It's fine, just put it in a container. Look at my EC2 cost. Oh my God, look how much we spent. Or my instance costs in the cloud. Well, maybe we should re-architect it so we can spin down and spin up resources, make it cloud native. So we're actually getting those benefits of the cloud. That way we'll promise.
Can I ask you a question? And there's it's the same question, but kind of I'm curious in two areas. So ChatGPT comes out in November, 100 million people use it. All of a sudden, there's this hyper awareness of this stuff. So the first question is, how's that impacted what you do now that there's all this awareness of it? And then I guess the second one is, probably starting GPT-3, but certainly being accelerated with ChatGPT. it feels like there's a new capability here. So I'm just curious, from a capability standpoint, what's changing in what you do, but also from that, just sort of the percent, like how have things changed now that people are more hyper aware of it?
Yeah, so I mostly use like text models. That's where the majority of our work is today. We were doing what we call transfer learning with these as like our foundation. So that's where like the term foundation. So you take this model as a foundation and then you do some other task. So what was those tasks? Those were like classification, right? So I get all this text in, like, is this a claim document or an appeals document? We could just label documents, right? And then there was things like what's called text metric learning. So we can take a set of documents and find similar documents to those. So some of that, like in search, we can like retrieve similar documents, but oftentimes we were doing things like fraud detection or spam detection. So those like very niche, like I have a very small set of documents that are abnormal. As new documents come in, I want to know, are they more like these abnormal documents or more like the normal documents, right? So those are like the tasks that we were doing. We were doing some like text spam prediction and summarization problems, but they were somewhat niche, right? So it was like the pretty simple Q&A and the accuracy of them wasn't that good, right? So like, yeah, we were doing like the Q&A with documents before GPT 3.5, but our performance was better than our cost per performance was better than the humans, right? So we weren't as accurate, right? Maybe the humans were like 95% accurate, we were 85%. So that delta 10%, okay, we had to send them back to the humans. So there's still that we didn't get that full productivity. Now we're as good as we were than humans. So now like that document Q&A, we can get to 95% accuracy. So now it's like, do we even need those? Like we just scan the documents, make the PDFs. Like we don't need the people in the mailroom anymore. It's such a small number of inaccuracies. We just fix them downstream when we adjudicate them. Right. So that's like how some of the applications have changed. I think a lot of people didn't realize that like the metric, the search, how you can do semantic search with these tools. And then when you add the chat interface on top of it, I think that was like a pretty big eye-opening for people. Oh, this is a real consumer application now. Like I can use these tools and put them in front of my consumers. That's kind of the first step. I still, like I said, I'm on that hunt for that like transformative, like this is how someone's going to use this tool to reinvent an industry. There's a lot around like self-driving cars for a long time. That kind of hype cycle has kind of died down now, and maybe that's still going to be a reality. But that was like where everyone was looking as like the transformative piece from some of these tools. But I think we're going to see it. Maybe not in like the next 5 years, but in that 10 to 20 year horizon.
It's going to come from someone in the salon, damn it.
It sure is.
We're going to break some stuff.
My idea of that type of transformation that you're talking about would be like, if I can just ask ChatGPT to create an AI agent for me with access to certain APIs, and it determines which APIs to get access to. You think that would be like that type of?
There is I saw a new project that was released I think yesterday or 2 days ago from Meta AI, from Meta the company, but it essentially does, so you as a product designer say, do this problem, and it builds the product for you. Now it's pretty simplistic today, but it does not just like, oh, here's the code, here's the documentation, here is a backlog of stories for you to improve this. So like, I think that's one of like the unique things that I think is being underutilized is as humans, we're pretty bad at critiquing what we create. AI is actually pretty good at that. Like it's probably better than we are, especially our own ideas. We may be good critics of other people's ideas, but if you ask it to critique something that you do, so I don't know, like you talked about your music earlier, right? Have it critique that, like tell you where it's not doing well, where you could improve it. The responses that you get from that are often like, wow, I would have never thought of that. So that's one thing I think we're looking at we're doing that in like compliance use cases, which is pretty funny. Like compliance has been up area where talking to me, like, critique XYZ. Look at this text and tell me where it could be improved. And you can do that from code as well with some of the code. Those are some things that like having that iterating through your text more efficiently than you can do is where I think we're going to see some interesting products.
I just created something that does that with your prompt. Iterates through, analyzes it, figures out where to improve, asks you extra questions, and then gives you a better prompt.
Yeah, so the adversarial agents within this space, I think that's going to be like a pretty sophisticated piece of it. So and that's some of the workflows that we're building into that call center piece. So make sure that those are really nice. So that's one of like those adversarial, generate this, like go back, look at this. And then you can actually use like the context. So you can like pass you have a query from a customer. You can pass that as is as the prompt. You can get a response back that's probably okay. Then you can add context from some documents or FAQs and things like that and say, hey, with this context, rewrite your last response. So where would you improve this? And things like that. So those are like really cool things where you're like, oh, we wouldn't have thought of that. Like the agent would have thought of that. And then ways you can surface that, not just do like, oh, output that text is new, but surface that information to the agent is pretty cool. Like, oh, like the agent see that, like, oh, I wouldn't have thought of doing this. And even like if you're in a call center or something like that, like the top agents, oh, I wouldn't have thought of saying it this way. When you see that come out of it, you're okay, we're on something.
That's great. If anyone online has questions for Jack, raise your hand. Jane has one. Jane.
So kind of just some things that I gleaned from your presentation. It sounds like when you're training a model based on data, quantity doesn't necessarily mean quality. Like you were talking about Bloomberg and how they spent like millions of dollars and they had like all of the data ever. And that's great, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's like, it kind of seems like with some of the advancements, it's like there's this more powerful, like especially with Claude, like more powerful tools. And at some point we're going to hit a ceiling and, like, and then is it just going to be about quality? Like, okay, I just have a small amount of data, but it's really high quality data and I can use that to train the model.
Yeah, and it's actually already happened. So
Textbooks are all you need, paper?
Yeah, so if you kind of understand like some of the architecture behind GPT-4, so it has changed, and like you mentioned, like the BARD model changed pretty recently. Like their giant model, like they were like it was pretty slow, and like the cost of it was pretty enormous. So what they actually did is they distilled it down into 12 smaller models that were specific to certain domains. And then they kind of understand the intent of the query. And then based off that intent, they send it to one of the 12 models. So getting a response from one of those 12 models that's way smaller than one giant big one is way faster. And it actually costs them a lot less to host those models. And they can actually have a higher throughput with it as well. So those are like some of the architecture things that are changing behind the scenes as we speak. But as we go forward, we're going to see like the rise of domain-specific models. I talked about like, cyber and finance and healthcare, and so I don't know exactly where. Like right now, some of those are coming out open source, but obviously, if I'm a healthcare payer or a healthcare provider, and I have a lot of good data, and I can train my own model or fine-tune my own model that works really well, I'm going to probably look to monetize that. So I think we're going to see some of that monetization come out. It may not be like really soon, but I think we're going to see that. I mean, Bloomberg is kind of like the first. They spend a lot of money to do that, but we're going to see other industries.
Looks like we have a question from Bruce.
Yeah, first off, fantastic presentation. Really, really appreciate it. My question is in the area of soul machines. We had looked at that particular tool a month or two ago, and the question is not so much about them as a vendor, but with that kind of a concept, I do realize the dependency is on the chaining multiple things together and that it has to be orchestrated right or it won't work. But my question is, in what scenarios do you think basically that's not across the creepy line? When does that fit really well, and when in other cases it's like it's comical and or actually it hurts, I don't know, trust?
Yeah. Like you said, there's been like probably a slower adoption to it than maybe some people have anticipated. So we are seeing that kind of like internal facing applications today. And so it's like your HR assistant and things like that we're building. But I think as we see them more out in the world, I think you're going to see retailers experimenting with them, within stores and things like that. So now you can go up to the register at a fast food chain and do your own ordering. But what if I didn't have to click through 63 screens again, right? It's the same thing with booking cruise. I can just have a conversation.
Yep.
Like instead of it just being a blank screen that speaks a voice, it has like some type of digital avatar thing. So when it becomes more present, then we're going to become more comfortable with it, and then we're going to become more comfortable with it in more places. So I think it's, like you said, it's still, it's improving quickly. So it's just a matter of time, in my opinion, when we get there. And I think one of the interesting applications of it is, I mentioned that the home healthcare, piece of it. There's lots of studies about, elderly people, feeling lonely, not having companions. So this is one of those areas, like people are trying it. Like I don't know the adoption. I don't have a crystal ball, but it's gonna be there. And your grandma's gonna be talking to them.
They're gonna tinker with it, and then someone's gonna.
Someone will crack it. Yeah, a specific use case.
And it's just like video games. When we were growing up playing Super Mario, the 64-bit, 16-bit. As the technology gets cheaper, the resolution gets better. Like it's a little clunky today. It's like the animation is not perfect, and the mouth movement sometimes with the speech is off. But that's all going to get better, right? These are all things that we're going to fix over time. And as the cost lowers for the hardware behind it, like that experience.
So we have a question online.
Jeff, you have a question?
Yes. Hey, Jack. By the way, you look like a relative of mine. Anyway, I just wanted to ask you, what has blown your mind with AI? You've been in it so long. Is there any one thing that you've just been really amazed at?
That's a good question. I don't think anyone's ever asked. We have a chat-based search accelerator that we really want as even for this. I think it's going to revolutionize how we do a lot of stuff online. I've been improving on-site search for most e-commerce customers for a long time. I went from like customer marketing analytics into like online experience, and I just hate the left rail navigation, right? Like, color, my size, like I never able to do it, especially on mobile. It's like a horrible experience. So just being able to chat what I want to do, and like, oh, I want size 10.5 wide instead of like going 10.5, going to wide, wide. Like if I can just do all of that in one, and it filters it for me. Like that's a way better experience. So like it's not like, oh, this is like a really crazy tool. It's just like a really cool application that makes my life. I guess it's a selfish answer, but
Great, yeah, it's awesome. All right, we have a couple of minutes left. Jack, thank you so much for sharing this. That was awesome. And as we do here at the salon, a well-deserved golf clap, I think, is in order. Yeah. So thanks very much, Leah. What do you think? And let me switch back to the other. Oh, I don't need to. If you'll just stop sharing that, Leah.
Yeah, I just think
another fine salon.
Another fine salon. I just want to say a nod out to all those who studied economics at some point in their career who went on to do interesting things. Thank you, Jack. As did I.
Oh, you were an economics major?
I was, and I was a math econ major.
Wow, look at you now, all arty with the new glasses, the new haircut.
I was always arty. I was just mathy too, and I'm still mathy. So there you have it.
Arty
Math
and
and
Arty and Madly.
Yeah,
Um,
nerd folks.
Awesome. Well, thank you everybody once again for coming. I forget who it was that introduced themselves. They said they're glad they're here, but they haven't been as active on the Discord as they want. Go be active on the Discord. Go join in the Discord. Share what you're learning. Ask questions. All that sort of stuff. It makes a huge, huge difference for all of us. And thanks everybody for being here. Here in Denver, look, we do after drinks over at Zeppelin Station. So if you are free now and want to go hang out, cool. And if you're online, you're on your damn own.
I don't think we did a proper golf clap for Jack. Did we do a golf clap?
We did do a golf clap.
We did. Okay, I missed it. Okay, I was busy
Yeah.
clapping with my thing. Okay,
exactly.
great. Just making sure. Okay.
But awesome.
All right,
everybody.
Fabulous. Thank you, everyone. Amazing salon. Great to have you here tonight. We'll see you in 2 weeks and on Discord.
Have a good night, everybody.
Discord's here.